Have you ever dealt with those individuals that always seem to have a blame for everything going wrong in their life, but never look at themselves in the mirror? Well, this episode, we're going to go exactly into that. This episode's all about the accountability mirror. Now let's get this party started. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Ramsey, and this episode is a very good, let's call it a lesson. It's a very good lesson that a lot of people do not have. Sometimes we are guilty of it ourselves. Today's episode is all about diving into something that David Goggins calls the accountability mirror. Well, I'm not really sure if that's what he calls it, if he came up with it. Well, no. Let me take that back. I am sure that's what he calls it. I'm not sure if he's the one that came up with the concept of it, but hey, he sold it very well, right? So for y'all that don't know who David Goggins is, he is an ultra marathon runner. He also was a former Navy SEAL or Navy SEAL. I don't know how, if they believe like the Marine people that once a Marine, always a Marine, once a SEAL, always a SEAL. But hey, either way, respect to the community. He came up with a very unique book that I feel that is very different than the typical books that military folks seem to put out. This was a book about his life growing up, about the things that he had to endure and obstacles that he had to face that the typical person might not have to go through, or the average person that reaches the level of success that he reached in the specific organization that he did it in typically do not have to deal with. This book goes into his personal life in ways that he overcame it, and it shows really that he was kind of a dirtbag and he made himself better through a lot of lessons that he self-taught himself. So it's a very, very good book. It's called Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. Trust me, if you get that book, even in audio, you will not regret it. Very, very interesting book from beginning to end. Very interesting story that this individual has. And he does a very interesting thing with the audio version of it, which is that in between each chapter, he has like a breakdown of the episode in a mini podcast version of a recording, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. So David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. Check it out. So let's dive right into this. The first thing I want to bring up is the power of facing reality. Too many people do not just look in the mirror. You have to have the courage to face it head on. And it's about looking in the mirror and acknowledging that you do have strengths, but you also have weaknesses. And it's about also looking into your past choices. Transparency is the foundation of growth. I'm sure that you can recall a choice that you made in the past that you want nobody to know about. I have them, we all have them, right? But we have to look at those things and say, yes, I made that choice, but also find out the why. Why did I make that choice? Even if it was a bad decision, why did I make that bad decision? Because if you don't learn from your losses, you're going to lack experience. That's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like, yes, you're allowed to make mistakes in your life. Go ahead, make them. But you have to acknowledge, one, that they were mistakes. Two, that you probably were not in the right state of mind. And three, what can you learn from that experience? Because there's people that you're going to deal with that are going to do a background check on you, that are going to ask you very tough questions, especially questions about your past. And sometimes when they ask, they already know the answer, but they want to hear you say it and your reaction towards it and what did you come up from that situation. So be transparent with yourself. That's going to help you really master and own this skill of self-accountability. One thing also that we need to look into is breaking through our self-delusion. The accountability mirror shatters the barriers of self-delusion and excuses. When you're honest with yourself, you can see where you're falling short, where you have succeeded, and that can lead to a clear path for improvement. One thing while I was going through my struggles of trying to climb up the ladder in my organization, I always told myself that when I get to the next level, there's not going to be a single doubt, because we all look at those supervisors, we all look at those managers, we all look at those people above us, and we're judgmental. We know that we criticize everything because realistically we're trying to get where they're at. Or how many times have you had those situations where you're dealing with somebody that you can outperform, that you know more than them, or even if it's not you, it could be a coworker. Say, hey, that coworker should be running the place, but he's stuck listening to somebody that does not know half of what he knows. And most of the time, the person above him, ask him for his guidance, assistance, for his knowledge, for all that stuff. So one thing that I always would do is I would look into the prereqs of what is needed to achieve the next level, and I would do it. I would make sure that there was zero doubt that I belong in the higher echelon. I'd make sure there's zero doubt. It was maxing out all my evaluations, doing every single thing, but I had to come to the conclusion something that I was lacking was my interpersonal skills. One thing that I've always been is kind of a lone wolf, kind of a loner. I've always just kind of done my own thing. I will perform everything right. I will work with the team, but I will always outshine them, and outshine them by a lot. And even though it should be almost, how can I say, it shouldn't even be questioned that is awesome. Well, it can also break down the level of cohesiveness because it might make them look bad. And you all know how it is, right? Even though you're leading the pack of wolves, if the pack turns on you, you're in for a long, long road ahead. And some can say it's a simple solution. Hey, find a new team. You're right, but sometimes we cannot control who our coworkers are. Sometimes we cannot control who our peers are. So we need to make sure that we build our interpersonal skills. Again, that was a weakness that I realized I had. I was cocky. I was extremely cocky. And from times I still am, because I have a high standard for myself. And I would assume, or I would like to assume, that everybody should have a high standard for themselves. But a lot of people do not. It's almost heartbreaking. But I know what I do. In order to help me help them, pretty much help me again, is I have to find a way to break through their insecurities and have them achieve a new level of excellence. Because it's too easy to make the blame on everybody. Everybody sucks. You suck. You suck. I'm just better. Everybody sucks. But I'm doing the right thing. Well, what kind of a leader am I if I'm not able to help them achieve new limits? What kind of a leader am I if I'm not able to help them change their mindset from a whining to a winning mentality? So that is one of the things that I had to look into when I was trying to figure out where can I improve. Because I really, really believed that there was nowhere to improve. But those interpersonal skills were kicking my ass. Listening to that book and realizing that you can always find room for improvement helped me be able to break through those barriers. So can you think of something where you can self-improve? Can you think of one of your weaknesses and think of an action plan on how to fix it? And realistically, it might be a figurative, might be, I don't know, it might be not a literal mirror, right? Forgive me, like I'm losing my train of thought right now, but it might not literally be a mirror, but that might be what you need. I literally have a mirror with the words accountability, so I can remember, hey, like, you need to look in yourself and make sure that you're acting right, that you're performing right, that you're performing at 100%. Because those are the questions you really got to answer yourself when something does not go your way. Did you give it all, yes or no? I will tell you, from my days of fighting and training in the gyms and all those things, I will tell you 100%, most of the people that lose instantly feel that regret because they did not give it their all. That is one of the biggest things that you have to look back to, is when you do not give it your all, because you have to live with that, especially when it's those opportunities that you might never get again. You're going to have to live with that. So please take this advice. Get a mirror. Hell, it is 2023. Everybody's got a selfie camera, right? We all got a cell phone. Open that up. Look at yourself and see, is this the best version of me? Look at yourself. Could I have dealt with that individual different? Could I have done a little bit of extra detail on that project? Could I have added a little bit more illustration to that PowerPoint? Every single thing that you touch is a representation of you. Could you do it? Could you have done it? If the answer is yes, cool. There's no need to cry. Just remember it and take it back. Take it back, get on it the next day, reset, and do it again. Even if you rebuild that same project again, add to it, use as a template, so the next time that something comes up, you can use that as your starting point, as your base. And by using that as your base, now your project or your product can only go up. So this next point that I'm going to be talking about is going to, it might discredit me a little bit, but I don't think so, right? So I'm a big fan of this cartoon. Yes, it's a cartoon, right? It's called Dragon Ball Z, right? But it kind of goes back into that point that I was talking about your base, right? So in this cartoon, this individuals start at a certain, let's call it a power level, and that is their base. When they get overly emotionally charged, or some traumatic stuff happens, or they train and train and train, eventually they're able to get to this thing called Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4. They just go up in their levels of transformations, right? But each level of those transformations is literally just a multiplier to their base. One thing I always tell people, you do not rise to the level of your expectations. You more than likely will fall to the level of your training. You do not rise to the level of your expectations. You will fall to your level of your training, or your knowledge, or your experience. Think about that. When you're working towards anything, if you're super good at Excel, more than likely you're going to want to do those Excel projects, right? So when the work's getting divided up, you're going to want to do those Excel projects. And it's fine. Be the subject matter expert on one thing. But when it comes to touching other things, you might be a little bit shy, right? So you build on your base, your Excel base, and you already know you have that on lock. Then spend an hour of your day working on something else that's a little bit outside your comfort zone. But when it comes to impressing someone, fall right back down to your base. Fall right back down to what you're really good at. And also try to find something that you're really good at. Try to find that one thing that nobody could replace you for. That's a key that's going to help you be successful. I'll tell you that. Let's discuss a little bit about how can we implement this, right? How can we implement this idea of an accountability mirror? One thing is set aside regular moments for intro inspection. What's that mean? Whether it's at night, whether it's in the morning before you go out to start your day, whether it's when you're brushing your teeth in front of the mirror, that'd be a good one, to be honest. I'm going to start doing that, to be honest with you. When you're brushing your teeth in front of the mirrors in the morning, just look at yourself and see, where can I do better? Where did I not do my best yesterday? And how can I learn from that? Take some time. It only has to be like 10 minutes, if that, because the brain works really fast. If you're really actually thinking about a specific thing, the brain does work really fast. So set some time and do it daily. Okay, this needs to be a daily task, because every single day you're dealing with new things. Like, this has to be a daily task. Don't only think about it like it's just work. Think about it with your spouse. Hey, am I doing the right things? Why he or she giving me that love that I used to get? Am I doing something wrong? I ain't gonna lie, sometimes it's them. But we become, how can I say? We get lazy when it comes to that aspect of life. We just get lazy. Once we got them, and sometimes we just underperform, and that's not cool, right? I try to tell when it comes to couples, and especially when like the homies will talk to me about like relationship issues and kind of those things. I always try to tell them like, hey, just pretend you're trying to get at her, bro. Like, just pretend that, come at her like the dude that's trying to bang her is gonna come at her, and do that shit, every third, fourth day. Do it weekly, something, man. That's what I tell dude. I cannot speak from a woman's perspective. I'm not a woman, but I can speak for a dude's perspective, man. You gotta, we know that the world is competitive, especially in that department. So back on topic, right? Figure out where you can improve and take accountability for the mistakes that you make. Next step to the implementation process is to write it down. Write it down. When you make a mistake, write that shit down. And if at that moment you already have a solution or something that you could have done better, write it down as a rough draft. But if you don't, just write it down and set your time aside to see, what could I have done better. I will tell you one thing that a lot of people hate about the military. I personally always liked it, at least in the Army side of the house, because I worked with other branches and apparently they do not do it. But I always liked it, which is a after action report, which is after almost anything. Literally after almost anything, what we do is we get together and we talk about some of the things that went right, some of the things that went wrong, and how can we improve from it. How it really goes is what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, what went right, what went wrong, and things to improve. But that biggest piece, the most important piece, is that how to improve. That is something that really needs to be accounted for, because it is too easy to say, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. But if you ain't coming up with solutions, you're just coming up with excuses to fail. And that's not what we do here. And lastly, embrace it. Like, embrace the challenges. Look at it as a good thing, not a bad thing. Too many people see discipline and fixing their own mistakes as a bad thing. But no, look at it as a good thing. It's like, hey, you know what? I got an opportunity to be better. Why not take it? Embrace those things. Embrace the discomfort. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to be successful and to be a better version of yourself. One thing I always tell people, and it sounds funny, and it kind of just goes back a little bit since we're already talking about the mirror, is that especially those people like, oh my God, I cannot lose weight, yada, yada, yada. I always tell them, like, hey, you cannot lose weight, get in front of the mirror, take off all your clothes, and eat naked. And you see how disgusting you might feel or you might look, especially when they cannot keep a diet, a basic diet, right? I always tell them, go ahead. You want that big old cheeseburger? You want that big old Starbucks drink? Get in front of the mirror, get butt naked, and look at yourself eat it. If you can do that and still consume it, hey, more power to your mind, my friend. More power to your mind. But that is, of course, a very exaggerated way to do things, but just embrace it. Every time that you have that, fuck, I fucked up. It's like, you know what? Cool, let me write this down. It gives me an opportunity to figure out how to do it right and how to pre-plan for that stuff not to happen. Sometimes there are little mistakes that happen on the spot, but pre-planning will definitely help you get past that, or will definitely help that event not happening again. So yeah, embrace it. So in conclusion, the mirror is the key to unlocking a true potential. By facing your reality, breaking through your excuses, and committing to your personal growth, you're on a path to extraordinary transformation. So start taking action today. Literally pick up a mirror, look at yourself, and start getting after it. Start getting after correcting your faults. Start getting after taking accountability for your own mistakes. Start getting after that, and you'll see your life change. Well, you'll see your life change. Trust me. It's going to help you and it's going to put you more at peace. With that all being said, that is it. That's all I got for today. Thank you again for joining us at the Solutions Podcast. And we are out.